Have you seen those scary headlines on your social media feed? The ones that shout eggs cause cancer? It's a claim that pops up again and again, causing a lot of worry and confusion for people just trying to eat a healthy breakfast. These posts often come with dramatic warnings, suggesting that your simple morning omelette might be a hidden danger, silently increasing your risk of a terrible disease. It's easy to see why such claims go viral. Cancer is a frightening word, and we all want to do everything we can to protect ourselves and our families. When someone confidently points a finger at a common, everyday food like the humble egg, it grabs our attention and makes us question our choices. The fear often stems from a mix of misunderstood science and a few alarming studies that get shared without proper context. Sometimes, people hear that eggs contain cholesterol or choline, and they jump to conclusions that these substances must be harmful in some way. Other times, a single, small study might find a weak link between egg consumption and a specific type of cancer. This finding then gets blown out of proportion by influencers or wellness bloggers looking for a sensational story. They create frightening thumbnails and catchy titles, and before you know it, a myth is born and spreads like wildfire across the internet, leaving many people needlessly anxious about their food choices. But what does it actually mean for a food to cause cancer? In the world of science, this is a very strong and serious claim to make. For scientists to say that something is a carcinogen, a substance that causes cancer, they need a huge amount of very strong evidence. This isn't just about one or two studies. It involves many different types of research, including studies on large groups of people over many years, as well as laboratory experiments that show exactly how a substance can damage our cells and lead to the uncontrolled growth that defines cancer. It is a slow and careful process, with a very high bar for proof. So, when we look at the official lists of carcinogens from major global health organizations like the World Health Organization or the International Agency for Research on Cancer, what do we find? You will find things like tobacco smoke, asbestos, and processed meats on these lists. These are substances with a mountain of evidence linking them directly to cancer. But what you will not find on these lists is eggs. That's right. Despite all the online chatter and frightening videos, the world's leading cancer experts have not concluded that eating eggs causes cancer in humans. This is a crucial piece of the puzzle that often gets lost in the noise. So, if major health bodies don't classify eggs as a cause of cancer, where does the confusion come from? It mostly comes from what are called observational studies. In these studies, researchers ask thousands of people what they eat over many years and then track who gets sick. Some of these studies have found a very weak link, or association, between eating a lot of eggs and a slightly higher risk of certain cancers, like prostate or ovarian cancer. However, other studies of the exact same type have found no link at all, and some have even suggested a slightly lower risk for other types of cancer. This inconsistency is a big red flag. When scientific findings are all over the place, it usually means that there isn't a strong, direct relationship. If eggs were truly a powerful cause of cancer, we would expect to see a clear and consistent pattern across most, if not all, of these large studies. We would see that the more eggs people ate, the higher their cancer risk would be, time and time again. But that is not what the overall body of evidence shows us. Instead, we see a messy picture with conflicting results, which suggests that something else is likely going on, and eggs are probably not the real culprit. It's also important to understand the difference between findings from animal studies and what they mean for humans. Sometimes, a study might find that a very high dose of a particular substance found in eggs causes problems in laboratory rats. This kind of research can be useful for generating hypotheses, but it doesn't automatically mean the same thing will happen in people eating a normal amount of eggs. The doses given to lab animals are often thousands of times higher than what a human would ever consume. Our bodies work differently, and we don't eat isolated chemicals. We eat whole foods as part of a varied diet. Therefore, when we step back and look at the whole collection of research, The conclusion from most mainstream nutrition experts and cancer organizations is clear. Based on the current, best available scientific evidence, eating eggs in moderation is not associated with an increased risk of cancer for the general population. Organizations like the American Cancer Society and Cancer Research UK focus their dietary advice on well-established risks. They recommend limiting red and processed meats, avoiding sugary drinks, and eating plenty of fruits, vegetables, and whole grains. But they do not tell people to stop eating eggs. One of the biggest challenges in nutrition science is the old saying: correlation does not equal causation. Just because two things happen at the same time, it doesn't mean one caused the other. For example, people who eat a lot of eggs for breakfast might also be more likely to eat bacon and sausages, processed meats, which are a known risk, smoke cigarettes, or lead a less active lifestyle. These other habits, which are known as confounding factors, could be the real reason for any increased cancer risk seen in a study, not the eggs themselves. It is incredibly difficult for researchers to separate all these factors perfectly. Think about how these studies are done. Researchers often rely on people to remember and accurately report everything they ate over weeks, months, or even years. Can you remember exactly what you ate for lunch every day last month? Most of us can't. This leads to measurement errors. People might forget what they ate, or they might fib a little to seem healthier. This noise in the data makes it very hard to find a true, clear signal. So, when a study reports a very small increase in risk, it could easily be due to these inaccuracies, rather than a genuine effect from the food being studied. This is why nutrition scientists are so cautious about blaming a single food for a complex disease like cancer. Cancer is not caused by one thing. It develops over decades and is influenced by a huge number of factors, including our genetics, our age, our environment, and our overall lifestyle. It's far more likely that the entire pattern of our diet matters more than whether or not we include one specific food like eggs. A diet high in processed foods, sugar, and unhealthy fats is very different from a diet rich in whole foods, even if both diets contain eggs. This is why it's so important to think critically when you see a headline that blames one food for all our problems. Science is a slow, careful process of building evidence. A single study, especially an observational one, is never the final word. We must look at the total weight of evidence from many different types of studies before drawing any firm conclusions. The media loves a simple, dramatic story, but the truth in nutrition is often much more nuanced and less exciting. The real story is that our overall dietary pattern and lifestyle habits are what truly shape our long-term health. Focusing too much on a single food, whether it's to praise it as a superfood or condemn it as a poison, can make us miss the forest for the trees. Our health isn't built on one ingredient. It's built on a foundation of our overall habits. A person who eats eggs as part of a balanced diet, full of vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and lean proteins, is in a very different position from someone who eats eggs alongside fried potatoes, white toast, and processed meat every single day. The egg is the same, but the dietary context surrounding it completely changes the health equation. That is what truly matters. Instead of fearing individual foods, a much more powerful approach is to focus on building a healthy dietary pattern. What does that look like? It's a diet that is overwhelmingly made up of whole and minimally processed foods. Think colorful vegetables and fruits, which are packed with protective antioxidants and fiber. Think whole grains like oats and brown rice, lean proteins from sources like fish and beans, and healthy fats from avocados and nuts. This pattern is consistently linked with a lower risk of many chronic diseases, including cancer. It's not about perfection, but about the overall quality of your diet, day in and day out. And of course, diet is just one part of the bigger lifestyle picture. Other factors play an enormous role in cancer risk. Regular physical activity is incredibly important for maintaining a healthy weight and for its direct effects on our immune system and hormone levels. Not smoking is arguably the single most effective thing you can do to reduce your cancer risk. Limiting alcohol consumption is another key step. Getting enough sleep and managing stress also contribute to our body's ability to stay healthy and fight off disease. These are the pillars of a healthy life, and they are far more impactful than worrying about eggs. So, let's put the egg cancer myth to rest. The current body of scientific evidence does not support the claim that eating eggs causes cancer. They are a nutritious, affordable, and versatile source of high-quality protein and many essential vitamins. Instead of fearing them, we should feel confident, including them in a balanced and varied diet. The next time you see a scary headline, take a deep breath and remember to think like a scientist. Look for the consensus among major health organizations. Consider the limitations of the research and always focus on the bigger picture of your overall diet and lifestyle. That is your most reliable path to a long and healthy life.